Don't trust anyone here but me, Mafia Boss cautioned. What happened next froze the room. Amara Bennett smoothed down the borrowed silk gown as she stepped into the Grand Belmore Hotel's ballroom. Crystal chandeliers cast golden light across marble floors, and the air hummed with wealth and power. She didn't belong here, not really. Her paralegal salary barely covered rent in her studio apartment. But when senior partner Richard Castellane had personally invited her to the annual Wintercrest Charity Gala, she couldn't refuse. "This could be your breakthrough, Amara," he'd said with his politician's smile. "The right connections tonight could change your career." She clutched her small evening purse tighter, scanning the crowd of designer gowns and tailored tuxedos. Judges, politicians, business moguls, people who moved the world with a signature. Amara had studied their cases, their scandals, their power plays. She wanted to be one of them someday. The honest kind. The kind who put criminals behind bars. Before you continue listening, please let me know where in the world are you watching from today. Now back to the story. A server offered champagne from a silver tray. Amara took a glass, her hand trembling slightly. Across the room, she noticed a man watching her. Tall, commanding presence, dark eyes that seemed to see everything. He wore his tuxedo like armor, and the crowd parted for him without him saying a word. Their eyes met, and something in Amara's chest tightened with warning. "Miss Bennett." Richard appeared at her elbow, his hand guiding her toward a group of well-dressed strangers. "Come, let me introduce you to some very important people." The next hour passed in a blur of handshakes and practiced smiles. Amara's cheeks hurt from maintaining her professional expression. She nodded through conversations about yacht clubs and summer homes in the Hamptons, worlds so far removed from her childhood, in a two-bedroom apartment where her mother worked 3 jobs just to keep the lights on. "You look like you could use some air," a woman in a red gown said, noticing Amara's glazed expression. "The wine cellar is just downstairs. Cooler, quieter. I sneak down there myself when these things get overwhelming." Amara thanked her and made her way toward the stairs, grateful for the escape. The wine cellar was exactly as promised. Cool, dimly lit, and blessedly quiet. Row upon row of vintage bottles stretched into shadows. She walked between them, letting her fingers trail along the dusty labels, trying to steady her breathing. That's when she heard voices. Low, urgent, angry. "You promised us Romano would be vulnerable tonight," a man hissed. "You said his security would be compromised." "It will be," another voice replied. Amara froze. She recognized that second voice. Richard Castellane, her boss. "I sent the girl as bait. Once Romano makes contact with her, we'll know exactly where his weaknesses are." Amara's heart stopped. The girl. They were talking about her. "And if she gets caught in the crossfire?" the first man asked. Richard's laugh was cold. "She's a paralegal, Victor. Disposable. Replaceable. No one will miss her." Amara pressed her hand over her mouth to keep from gasping. Her mind raced. She needed to get out, needed to run, needed to... A shadow fell across the wine rack. One of the men stepped into view, and Amara saw the glint of a gun in his hand. He raised it, aiming at someone she couldn't see. Time seemed to slow. The man's finger moved toward the trigger. Before she could scream, a strong hand clamped over her mouth from behind. An arm wrapped around her waist, pulling her back into the shadows between the wine racks. She struggled, but the grip was iron. "Don't make a sound," a deep voice whispered against her ear. "Don't trust anyone here but me." The gunshot exploded through the cellar. Glass shattered. Someone screamed. Amara's legs went weak, but the arms holding her kept her upright. More gunshots. Shouting. The sound of running feet. The man holding her moved swiftly, pulling her through a service door she hadn't noticed. They were in a narrow corridor now, fluorescent lights flickering overhead. He released her mouth but kept his hand on her arm, guiding her forward with urgency. "Who are you?" Amara gasped, finally getting a look at him. It was the man from the ballroom. The one everyone had parted for. Up close, she could see the hard lines of his face, the calculating intelligence in his dark eyes, the dangerous grace in every movement. "Lorenzo Romano," he said, pulling her around a corner. "And you just became a very big problem." "I didn't do anything," Amara protested, trying to pull away. "I was just looking for some air. I didn't mean to." "You witnessed an assassination attempt?" Lorenzo cut her off, his voice low and controlled. "On me. Which means Viktor Petrov and your boss Richard now have two options: silence you or use you. Neither ends well for you." He stopped in front of a service elevator, pressing the button. Amara's mind was spinning. "My boss? Richard wouldn't. Your boss just called you disposable." Lorenzo's eyes met hers, and she saw no deception there, only brutal honesty. "He sent you here as bait, to draw me out, to test my security. You were never meant to leave this gala alive." The elevator doors opened. Lorenzo pulled her inside, hitting the button for the penthouse level. Amara slumped against the wall, her borrowed gown suddenly feeling like a costume, a disguise for the pawn she'd been all along. "I don't understand," she whispered. "Why would Richard want you dead? What does any of this have to do with me?" Lorenzo studied her for a long moment. "How much do you know about the cases your firm handles?" "I'm a paralegal. I do research, file documents, prepare briefs. For organized crime cases," Lorenzo finished. "Cases that somehow never quite make it to trial. Evidence that mysteriously disappears. Witnesses who recant their testimony." He leaned against the elevator wall, watching her process this. "Your firm doesn't fight crime, Miss Bennett. Protects it. For a price." The elevator dinged. The doors opened into a private hallway. Lorenzo led her to a suite at the end, using a keycard to unlock it. The penthouse was stunning. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, modern furniture, art that probably cost more than Amara made in a year. "Stay here," Lorenzo ordered, gesturing to the living area. "Don't open the door for anyone. Not hotel security. Not the police. Not your boss. No one. You can't just keep me prisoner," Amara protested, but her voice lacked conviction. Her legs were still shaking. "I'm not keeping you prisoner. I'm keeping you alive." Lorenzo moved to a desk, opening a laptop. "Right now, Richard and Victor think you're either dead or on the run. We have maybe an hour before they realize you're neither and start actively hunting you." He pulled up security footage on the screen. Amara watched, horrified, as she saw herself on camera, entering the wine cellar, walking between the racks, freezing as the men talked. Then Lorenzo appearing behind her, pulling her away just as the gunman fired. The timestamp showed it was only 15 minutes ago. Felt like a lifetime. "I need to call the police," Amara said, reaching for her phone. "3 police captains are downstairs at that gala," Lorenzo said without looking up from his laptop. "All 3 are on someone's payroll. You call them, you'll be dead within the hour. They'll make it look like suicide." Tragic young woman, overwhelmed by the pressure of her job, jumped from her apartment balcony. Amara's hand froze on her phone. "How do you know all this?" "Because I've been documenting it for months." Lorenzo turned the laptop toward her. The screen showed files, hundreds of them. Court documents, financial records, wire transfers, photographs. "Your boss Richard Castellane has been working with Viktor Petrov for over a decade. They fix cases, eliminate witnesses, control judges. And when someone gets too close to the truth," he clicked to a folder labeled "Disappeared." Amara saw photos of people she recognized. Former colleagues, a junior partner who'd quit suddenly, a paralegal who'd supposedly moved out of state. Her stomach turned. "Are they all dead?" "Yes." Lorenzo's voice was matter-of-fact, but she caught a flash of something else in his eyes. Anger, grief. "My father was a legitimate businessman. He crossed Richard's clients without knowing it. Richard prosecuted him on fabricated evidence, sent him to prison. He died there. Heart attack, they said. I know better. Amara sank onto the leather couch, her mind reeling. Everything she'd believed, every dream she'd worked toward, was built on lies. Why are you helping me? If you hate Richard, if you're planning some kind of revenge, why not just let me die down there? Lorenzo closed the laptop and sat across from her. Because you're not part of this world. You still believe in justice, in the system, in right and wrong. I need that. I need someone who thinks like a lawyer, who knows how to build a case that will actually stick in court. He leaned forward, his gaze intense. I can document the crimes, Miss Bennett, but I need you to make the evidence legal, admissible, unimpeachable. You want me to help you take down my own boss, Amara said slowly. I want you to help me take down a corrupt system that's been destroying lives for years, including yours. Lorenzo stood, moving to the window. But first, we need to survive the night. Because right now, both Richard and Victor want us dead. As if on cue, Amara's phone buzzed. She looked at the screen. A text from an unknown number. You're already dead. Just don't know it yet. Her hands started shaking. Lorenzo took the phone from her, studying the message. He opened the attached photo, and Amara saw her own apartment. Ransacked, furniture overturned, her law school diploma torn from the wall. They work fast, Lorenzo said grimly. He pulled out his own phone, typing rapidly. We're leaving. Now. Leaving? To where? Somewhere they won't think to look. He grabbed a bag from the closet, moving with practiced efficiency. Change out of that gown. There are clothes in the bedroom. We have maybe 10 minutes before Victor's men check this floor. Amara stood frozen, overwhelmed by the cascade of revelations. Just this morning, she'd been a paralegal with dreams of becoming a prosecutor. Now she was a target, her apartment destroyed, her boss trying to kill her, and her only ally was a man the law would label a criminal. Miss Bennett. Lorenzo's voice cut through her spiral. Amara, look at me. She met his eyes. I know this is terrifying. I know your world just collapsed. But you can fall apart later. Right now, you need to move. Change clothes. We leave in 5 minutes. Something in his voice, not quite gentle, but steady, certain, cut through her panic. Amara nodded and hurried to the bedroom. She found jeans, a black sweater, boots, all in her size. She tried not to think about how Lorenzo had known her measurements as she changed quickly. When she emerged, Lorenzo was by the door, now dressed in dark clothes instead of his tuxedo. He looked even more dangerous this way. He handed her a phone, different from her own. Burner phone. Only I have the number. Don't call anyone else. Don't text anyone else. As far as the world is concerned, Amara Bennett disappeared tonight. They took the service stairs down, Lorenzo moving with careful precision, checking corners before proceeding. They reached the parking garage without incident. Lorenzo led her to a black sedan, not the luxury car she'd expected. Get in, he said, opening the passenger door. Amara hesitated. This was it, the moment of choice. She could refuse, could try to run, could attempt to reach authorities she hoped weren't corrupt. Or she could trust this stranger who claimed to be protecting her. The decision was made for her when gunshots rang out across the garage. Lorenzo shoved her into the car, bullets sparking off the concrete pillar beside them. He dove into the driver's seat, the engine already running. More gunshots. The rear window shattered. Lorenzo threw the car into reverse, tires squealing as he maneuvered between parked vehicles. Amara ducked low, her heart hammering. She could see 2 cars pursuing them, men leaning out windows with guns. This couldn't be real. This couldn't be happening. Lorenzo's hand shot out, pushing her head down as another volley of bullets pierced the back seat. He spun the wheel hard, the car fishtailing around a corner. The pursuit cars followed, relentless. Hold on, Lorenzo said. his voice utterly calm despite the chaos. He accelerated toward the garage exit, smashing through the lowered arm barrier. They hit the street at high speed, weaving through late-night traffic. Amara risked a glance back. The pursuit cars were still there, closing the distance. Lorenzo made a series of sharp turns, his driving precise and controlled. He knew these streets, knew exactly where he was going. After several minutes of heart-stopping pursuit, he pulled into an alley, killing the lights. The pursuit cars screamed past on the main road. They sat in darkness, Amara's breath coming in ragged gasps. Lorenzo waited, watching, listening. After 5 minutes of silence, he started the car again, taking a different route through the city's backstreets. "Where are we going?" Amara finally asked. "Safe house. Somewhere Victor doesn't know about." Lorenzo glanced at her. "You did well back there. Didn't panic, didn't scream. That's good. We're going to need that." Amara looked down at her trembling hands. "I'm terrified." "Good. Fear keeps you alert. It's when you stop being afraid that you make fatal mistakes." They drove in silence for another 20 minutes before pulling into an underground garage beneath a nondescript building. Lorenzo led her to an elevator that required both a keycard and a fingerprint scan. They emerged into a penthouse that was nothing like the hotel suite. This was lived in, functional, with multiple computer screens, filing cabinets, and walls covered in photographs and documents connected by colored strings. "Welcome to my war room," Lorenzo said, locking the door behind them with multiple deadbolts. "This is where I've been building the case against Richard and Victor for the past 2 years." Amara moved closer to the walls, studying the information. She recognized legal terminology, case numbers, financial trails. Her paralegal training kicked in automatically, following the threads of evidence. It was extensive, detailed, and absolutely damning. This is incredible," she breathed. "You have RICO violations, money laundering, witness tampering, conspiracy to commit murder. But none of it's admissible in court," Lorenzo said, moving to stand beside her. "I obtained most of it through means that would get it thrown out. That's where you come in. You know how to backtrack this, how to find legal avenues to the same information." Amara's mind was already working, seeing the possibilities. "If we can get subpoenas for the financial records, we could legal trace these transactions. And if we can find just one witness willing to testify." Everyone who tried to testify ended up in that disappeared folder, Lorenzo reminded her. "We need ironclad evidence that doesn't rely on witness testimony. Documents, records, digital trails that can't be intimidated or eliminated." Amara pulled out her phone. Not the burner, but her original phone that she'd stuffed in her pocket when changing. "I have access to the firm's cloud system. All case files, all internal communications, all financial records. They haven't deactivated my credentials yet." Lorenzo's eyes sharpened with interest. "Can you access it remotely?" "Yes, but..." Amara hesitated. "The moment I log in, they'll know I'm alive. They'll trace the access point." "Let them." Lorenzo moved to one of the computers. "We'll use a VPN. Make it look like you're accessing from multiple locations simultaneously. Create confusion, buy us time." He pulled up a chair beside him. "Show me what you can access." For the next 2 hours, Amara navigated through her firm's files while Lorenzo documented everything. What they found was worse than either had imagined. Richard wasn't just fixing cases. He was running an entire network of corruption that stretched from street-level crimes to corporate fraud to political manipulation. "My God," Amara whispered, reading an internal memo. "That judge who ruled in the Carrington case last month. Richard's been paying his daughter's college tuition." "Screenshot it," Lorenzo said, his fingers flying across his own keyboard. "We need every piece of documentation." They worked in focused silence, building a digital fortress of evidence. Amara's legal mind cataloged each piece, mentally constructing the framework of a case that could bring down not just Richard, but the entire consortium of corrupt officials he'd assembled. Wait, Amara said suddenly, clicking on a folder marked Romano. There's a file about you and your father. Lorenzo went still. What does it say? Amara read through the documents, her horror growing with each page. Richard didn't just prosecute your father. He orchestrated the entire case from the beginning. He needed a fall guy for a real estate fraud that one of his clients committed. Your father's business was in the way, so Richard framed him, used fabricated evidence, paid off witnesses. She looked up at Lorenzo and saw something dangerous burning in his eyes. Not rage exactly, colder than that, more controlled. My father died believing he'd failed, Lorenzo said quietly. Died thinking he'd somehow made a mistake that destroyed our family. All along, it was calculated murder. I'm so sorry, Amara said, and meant it. Lorenzo took a breath, visibly controlling himself. This is exactly what we need. Direct evidence of fabrication, of conspiracy. This can be the cornerstone of the case. He looked at her. Can you download everything? Already doing it. Amara's fingers flew across the keyboard. I'm creating multiple backups, uploading to encrypted cloud storage, sending copies to. Her phone buzzed, then buzzed again, and again. Text messages flooding in, all from Richard. Amara, where are you? We need to talk. You're in danger. Please respond. I'm worried about you. The police are looking for you. Don't do anything stupid. I know Romano has you. He's a dangerous man. Whatever he's told you is lies. You have 10 minutes to respond or I'm reporting you as kidnapped. Amara showed the messages to Lorenzo. He read them without expression. Classic manipulation. Pretending concern while making threats. He's trying to scare you into contact so he can trace you. Should I respond? Yes. Lorenzo's smile was sharp. But not the way he expects. Let me show you something. He pulled up a recording security footage from the wine cellar, but with enhanced audio. Amara heard her own gasp of shock as she listened to Richard's voice. She's a paralegal, Victor. Disposable. Replaceable. No one will miss her. Send him that, Lorenzo said. Let him know exactly what you heard. Let him know you're not the naive victim he thinks you are. Amara's hands shook as she attached the audio file to a text. I heard every word you said about me in the wine cellar. I know what you are. I know what you've done. And I'm going to make sure everyone else knows too. She hit send before she could second-guess herself. The response was immediate. Her phone rang. Richard's name on the caller ID. Don't answer, Lorenzo advised. Let him sweat. The phone rang 6 more times before falling silent. Then a new text. You just made the biggest mistake of your life. No, Amara said softly, staring at the walls of evidence surrounding her. The biggest mistake of my life was trusting you. Lorenzo stood, moving to a locked cabinet. They'll escalate now. Victor's men will start a systematic search. They'll threaten your mother. My mother. Amara's blood ran cold. They know where she lives? They know everything about you, Amara. That's how they chose you as bait. Lorenzo unlocked the cabinet, revealing weapons. Guns, ammunition, body armor. We need to move her to safety before they use her as leverage. She lives in Newark. How are we supposed to? I have people. Clean people. They can extract her safely and bring her to a protected location. Lorenzo pulled out a phone, different from the ones he'd used before. But we need to move fast. Within the hour. Amara felt the walls closing in. Her mother. God. She hadn't even thought about her mother. A woman who'd worked herself to exhaustion to give Amara opportunities. Who'd been so proud when Amara got the paralegal job at a prestigious firm. Make the call, Amara said. Please. Keep her safe. Lorenzo spoke quietly in what sounded like Italian. Amara caught only a few words, but the tone was clear, urgent, authoritative, non-negotiable. He ended the call and looked at her. My people will have her within 30 minutes. She'll be scared, confused, angry. You'll need to call her. Explain enough to get her to cooperate without revealing where you are. Amara nodded, taking the phone Lorenzo offered. Her mother answered on the first ring. Amara? Baby, where are you? I saw on the news about some shooting at a hotel gala, and your boss called saying you weren't answering your phone. Mama, I need you to listen carefully. Amara fought to keep her voice steady. I'm safe, but I'm in trouble. Bad trouble. Some men are going to come to your apartment in a few minutes. They work for me. You need to go with them. What? Amara, you're scaring me. I know, Mama, I know. But please trust me. These men will take you somewhere safe. Don't tell anyone where you're going. Don't call Richard from my work. Don't talk to the police. Just go with them and wait for me to contact you. There was a long pause. Then her mother's voice, steel beneath the fear. What did you get into, baby? I found out my boss is a criminal. A real one. And he tried to have me killed tonight. I have evidence, Mama. Evidence that can put him away. But first I need to know you're safe. Another pause. These men coming for me? Can I trust them? Amara looked at Lorenzo, this dangerous stranger who'd pulled her out of gunfire, who'd shown her evidence of corruption, who was now protecting her mother. Yes, you can trust them. Okay, baby, I'll go. But Amara, you be careful. You hear me? Whatever you're doing, you be smart about it. I will, Mama. I love you. I love you too, baby girl. So much. The call ended. Amara sat there, phone in her trembling hand, the weight of what she'd set in motion crushing down on her. Lorenzo sat beside her, not touching, just present. Your mother sounds strong. She is. She raised me alone, worked 3 jobs, never complained. Amara wiped at her eyes. She sacrificed everything so I could have a better life. And look where that got us. It got you here, Lorenzo said, with the knowledge and skills to fight back. Your mother didn't sacrifice so you could be a victim, Amara. She sacrificed so you could be strong enough to stand up to people like Richard. Amara looked at him, really looked at him. This man who the world would call a criminal, who probably was a criminal in many ways, but who'd also saved her life, who was protecting her mother, who'd spent 2 years documenting corruption because it had killed his father. Why are you really doing this? She asked. It's not just about your father, is it? Lorenzo stood, moving to the window. The city lights spread below them, thousands of lives unaware of the war being waged in the shadows. My younger sister, he said quietly. She was 17 when my father was arrested. Smart, beautiful, had dreams of being a doctor. After he died in prison, after the shame and the whispers and the cruelty, he stopped. She took her own life, left a note saying she couldn't live in a world this corrupt, this broken. I'm sorry, Amara whispered. I made a promise at her grave. I would burn down the system that killed them both. I would make sure no other family was destroyed by corrupt men hiding behind badges and gavels and expensive suits. Lorenzo turned to face her. That's why I'm doing this, Amara. Not for revenge. For justice. Real justice. His phone buzzed. He glanced at it, nodded once. Your mother is secure. My people have her. Relief flooded through Amara. Thank you. Really. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. We're just getting started. Lorenzo pulled up a new screen. Tomorrow, Richard will try to discredit you. He'll plant evidence, create a narrative where you're the criminal and he's the victim. We need to get ahead of that. How? We go public. Controlled leak to media outlets we can trust. Give them enough to start asking questions, but not so much that Richard can shut it down before it gains traction. Amara's legal mind kicked back into gear. We need someone credible to break the story. A journalist with reputation, who won't be easily intimidated. I know someone, Lorenzo said. Sarah Chen. Used to be an investigative reporter for the Times before she went independent. She's been trying to expose judicial corruption for years, but could never get enough evidence. And you're just going to hand her the biggest story of her career? No. We're going to hand her the beginning of the story. Enough to protect you from being disappeared, but not so much that it tips our full hand. We save the nuclear evidence for when we're ready to go to trial. They worked through the night, crafting a careful narrative. Documents showing questionable financial transactions at Amara's firm. Anonymous sources suggesting case fixing. Just enough smoke to make people look for fire. As dawn broke over the city, Lorenzo sent the package to Sarah Chun. Within an hour, Amara's burner phone rang. Lorenzo answered, putting it on speaker. "This better be real," a woman's voice said. "Because if you're wasting my time with fake documents, I will destroy you." "It's real," Lorenzo said. "And it's just the surface. Are you interested?" "Interested? This is front-page material. But I need corroboration. I need sources willing to go on record." "Not yet," Lorenzo said. "Right now, we need you to publish what we sent. Create enough noise that they can't disappear our source quietly." "Your source have a name?" Amara leaned forward. "Amara Bennett. I'm a paralegal at Castellane and Associates. And I'm willing to testify to everything I've seen." There was a pause. "You understand what you're signing up for? Your career is over. Your reputation will be shredded. Richard Castellane has connections everywhere." "I know," Amara said. "But I'd rather be alive and unemployed than dead and innocent." Sarah Chin laughed. "I like you. Okay, I'll run the story. But Miss Bennett, once this goes public, there's no taking it back. You ready for that?" Amara looked at Lorenzo, at the walls of evidence, at the city waking up outside the windows. She thought of her mother in hiding, of Lorenzo's sister who'd seen no other way out, of all the other victims in that disappeared folder. "I'm ready," she said. The story broke at noon. Corruption allegations rock prestigious law firm. Sarah Chun had been careful, publishing only what could be proven, but asking pointed questions about the rest. By evening, it had gone viral. Other journalists picked up the thread, digging into Richard's past cases, finding patterns of impossible coincidences and favorable rulings. Amara watched it unfold from the safe house, her heart pounding. This was real. This was happening. Her burner phone rang. Unknown number. Lorenzo gestured for her to answer, recording the call. "Miss Bennett." Richard's voice was cold, controlled. "I underestimated you. That was my mistake. You tried to have me killed," Amara said. "That was your mistake. Do you really think you can win this? You're a paralegal. I have judges, prosecutors, police captains in my pocket. You're playing a game you don't understand. Then maybe you should teach me," Amara said, her voice stronger than she felt. "Or better yet, turn yourself in before this gets worse." Richard laughed. "Worse? For who?" "You've made yourself a target, Amara. Not just for me, but for everyone whose interests align with keeping our current system intact. You're not fighting one corrupt lawyer. You're fighting an empire." "Good," Amara said. "Empires fall." She ended the call, her hands shaking. Lorenzo nodded approval. "He's rattled." "Good. Rattled people make mistakes." But Richard wasn't the only one making calls. Over the next few hours, Amara received messages from former colleagues warning her, threatening her, begging her to recant. Some she recognized as genuine concern. Others were clearly scripted, attempts to manipulate her back into silence. As night fell again, Lorenzo's phone buzzed. He read the message, his expression darkening. "What is it?" Amara asked. "Victor Petrov just put a price on your head. $500,000 for information leading to your location." Amara felt the blood drain from her face. $500,000? It means every criminal in this city will be looking for you. Every desperate person who needs money. Every opportunist who thinks they can collect. Lorenzo started pulling down the documents from the walls, packing them into waterproof cases. "We need to move. This location is compromised." "How?" "We've been so careful." "Money talks, Amara. Someone somewhere saw us come in. Saw us on a traffic camera. Found a pattern in my movements. With that kind of reward, people become very motivated. They packed quickly, efficiently. Lorenzo had clearly done this before. Within 20 minutes, they were ready to go. Where now? Amara asked. Somewhere Victor would never think to look. Lorenzo smiled grimly. We're going to hide in plain sight. He led her down to the garage, but this time to a different car. A minivan of all things. Completely unremarkable, the kind of vehicle that blended into suburban traffic without a second glance. They drove for an hour, leaving the city behind, heading into residential neighborhoods. Finally, Lorenzo pulled into the driveway of a modest house with a neat lawn and a swing set in the backyard. This is your safe house? Amara asked incredulously. This is my sister's house. Was my sister's house. I kept it after she died. Maintained it. No one knows I own it. It's in a trust under a different name. Pays its own taxes. Completely separate from everything else I own. Inside, the house was frozen in time. Photos of a beautiful young woman in a graduation gown. Acceptance letter to medical school on the refrigerator. Textbooks still on the shelf. Lorenzo moved through it like a ghost, his grief palpable. I'm sorry, Amara said softly. Being here must be painful. Everything's painful, Lorenzo replied. But this pain has purpose. It reminds me why we're fighting. They set up in the study, Lorenzo's computers and files transforming the peaceful room into a command center. Amara worked through the night, cross-referencing the evidence Lorenzo had gathered with legal precedents, building the framework of a case that could survive any courtroom challenge. We need to think about endgame, Lorenzo said as dawn approached again. We can't hide forever. Eventually, we need to bring this to court, to prosecutors who aren't compromised. Federal prosecutors, Amara said. We bypass the local system entirely. Take it straight to the FBI. The FBI has compromised agents too. But not all of them. And if we can get to the right ones, the clean ones, with enough evidence that they can't ignore it. Amara pulled up a file. There's a joint task force investigating organized crime and corruption. They're specifically looking at the connections between criminal enterprises and legal institutions. This is exactly what they need. Lorenzo leaned over her shoulder, reading. How do we contact them without tipping off the compromised agents? We don't contact them directly. We use Sarah Chin. She reaches out officially, as a journalist requesting comment on her investigation. She mentions she has sources with detailed evidence. They'll come to her and walk into a trap if some of them are dirty. Then we vet them first. We test them with partial information, see if it leaks. We're careful, methodical, patient. Lorenzo looked at her with something like respect. You're thinking like someone who expects to survive this. I am going to survive this, Amara said firmly. We both are, and we're going to watch Richard and Victor go to prison for what they've done. Over the next week, they executed the plan. Sarah Chun made her official inquiry. The FBI task force responded. Lorenzo's network monitored communications, watching for leaks. None came. The agents seemed clean. A meeting was arranged. Neutral location. Public place. Sarah Chen and 2 FBI agents from the task force. You should stay here, Lorenzo said as he prepared to go. If this goes wrong, then you'll need someone who knows where all the evidence is backed up. Amara interrupted. I'm coming. Amara, if they capture you. They won't. We've been careful. We've been smart. And I'm not letting you walk into this alone. She met his eyes. We're partners in this, Lorenzo. That means we face the risks together. Something shifted in his expression. For a moment, the dangerous crime boss facade fell away, and she saw the man underneath. The brother who'd lost his family. The son seeking justice for his father. Partners, he agreed. They met Sarah Chen and the FBI agents at a coffee shop in a busy shopping district. Agent Melissa Torres and Agent James Park looked exactly like what they were. Federal law enforcement, alert and professional. You must be the famous anonymous source, Torres said as Amara sat down. Amara Bennett, Amara said, not bothering with false names. Former paralegal at Castellane and Associates. Former, Park noted. Interesting choice of words. Necessary choice. After I witnessed my boss planning an assassination and calling me disposable bait, employment seemed less important than survival. Torres and Park exchanged looks. We're going to need you to walk us through everything from the beginning. But first, Torres pulled out a document. We need you to understand what you're signing up for. If we pursue this investigation, you'll be a witness in a federal case. That means protective custody, relocation, new identity. It means your old life is over. My old life ended when I heard my boss order my death, Amara said. I'm ready to testify, but I have conditions. Witnesses don't usually make conditions, Park said. This witness has evidence that can bring down not just Richard Castellane, but an entire network of corruption spanning the legal and criminal worlds. I think that earns me some negotiating power. Torres smiled. I'm listening. Full immunity for Lorenzo Romano in exchange for his cooperation and testimony. Protection for my mother. And I want to be involved in building the case. I know how these people think, how they operate. Use that. Lorenzo Romano is a known organized crime figure who's been documenting judicial corruption for 2 years because it destroyed his family, Amara interrupted. He's not the criminal here. He's the victim who fought back. The agents looked at each other again. Some unspoken communication passed between them. We'd need to see the evidence before we can promise anything, Torres finally said. Lorenzo slid a USB drive across the table. Financial records, recordings, internal memos, witness statements. Everything you need to indict Richard Castellane, Victor Petrov, and 37 other individuals ranging from street criminals to superior court judges. Park picked up the drive like it might explode. This is verified? Every document is authenticated. Every recording is time-stamped and backed by corroborating evidence. Miss Bennett has organized it according to legal standards for admissibility. You won't find a more complete case file. Torres looked at Amara. You did this? Organized all this evidence. It's what I was trained for, Amara said. I just never thought I'd be using it to prosecute my own boss. The agents took the drive, promising to review it and contact them within 48 hours. As they left, Saracen lingered. That was either very brave or very stupid, she said to Amara. Probably both, Amara admitted. For what it's worth, I think you're doing the right thing. This city needs people willing to stand up to corruption, even when it's terrifying. Back at the safe house, Lorenzo and Amara waited. 48 hours felt like 48 years. Every car that passed, every unexpected sound, sent Amara's heart racing. Lorenzo remained calm, but she noticed he checked his weapons more frequently, positioned himself between her and the windows. When the call finally came, it was Agent Torres. We want to move forward. The evidence is solid. Better than solid, it's extraordinary. We're going to need both of you in protective custody starting immediately. What about my conditions? Amara asked. Romano gets full immunity in exchange for testimony. Your mother stays in protection. And Miss Bennett, Torres paused. The prosecution team wants you as a consultant. Your knowledge of the firm's operations is invaluable. Amara's eyes met Lorenzo's. They'd done it. They'd actually done it. We're ready, she said. The next months were a blur of depositions, evidence review, and grand jury testimony. Amara found herself in conference rooms with federal prosecutors, walking them through the intricate web of corruption she'd helped expose. Lorenzo sat beside her, providing context, filling in gaps. They made a good team. Her legal precision and his strategic thinking complemented each other. The prosecutors noticed, often directing questions to both of them in tandem. You two should consider opening a consulting firm after this is over, one prosecutor joked. Corruption Investigations Incorporated. After this is over. Amara tried to imagine what that looked like. Going back to a normal life? Impossible. Everything had changed. The trial itself was a media sensation. Richard Castellane, respected senior partner, accused of conspiracy, racketeering, witness tampering, and accessory to murder. Viktor Petrov, known crime boss, facing similar charges. And 23 other defendants in a case that Sarah Chan was calling the corruption trial of the century. Amara testified for 3 days. She walked the jury through evidence, explained the legal mechanisms of case fixing, identified documents and recordings. Richard's lawyer tried to discredit her, painting her as a scorned employee, a naive girl manipulated by a crime boss. But Amara was ready. For every accusation, she had documentation. For every attempt to twist her words, she had recordings. By the end of her testimony, even Richard's lawyer looked defeated. Lorenzo testified next. He was careful, controlled, never quite admitting to crimes but painting a picture of a man driven to extreme measures by a system that had killed his family. The jury was riveted. The verdict came after 2 weeks of deliberation. Guilty on all counts. Richard Castellane would spend the rest of his life in prison. Viktor Petrov received the same sentence. The other defendants received varying terms, but none walked free. Outside the courthouse, Amara stood with Lorenzo, watching the sun set over the city they'd fought to save. "What now?" she asked. "Now we rebuild," Lorenzo said. "I'm going legitimate, using everything I learned to build legal businesses. Maybe try to help other families caught in the system." "That sounds good. Noble even." "What about you?" Amara thought about it. Her old dreams of being a prosecutor felt hollow now. She'd seen too much of how the system could be corrupted, twisted, broken. "I think I want to do what we did. Find corruption, expose it. Use legal methods to bring justice where the system fails." Lorenzo smiled. Corruption Investigations Incorporated? Maybe not that name, but yeah, something like that. She looked at him. "Want to be my partner?" "We already are partners," Lorenzo said. "Have been since that night in the wine cellar when I told you not to trust anyone but me." "And I didn't," Amara said softly. "I trusted you instead. Best decision I ever made." "Second best," Lorenzo corrected. "Oh? What's the first?" "Deciding to fight back instead of run." They stood together as darkness fell over the city. Two people who'd lost everything and found something better. Purpose, partnership, and justice hard-won. 6 months later, Amara sat in a sleek new office with Bennett and Romano, legal consultants, on the door. Her mother had visited the week before, proud tears in her eyes as she toured the space. The work wasn't easy, exposing corruption never was, but it was honest, meaningful, and exactly where Amara was supposed to be. Lorenzo came in carrying coffee, setting one on her desk like he did every morning. "New case?" he asked, nodding at the files spread across her desk. "Possible corruption in the district attorney's office. Anonymous tip, but it looks credible. Want backup on the initial investigation?" "Always." They worked in comfortable silence, the partnership that had begun in terror and chaos now something solid, something lasting. "Do you ever miss it?" Amara asked eventually. "Your old life, before all this?" Lorenzo considered. "Sometimes. It was simpler in some ways. But this," he gestured at the office, the evidence, the purpose. "This is what my sister would have wanted, what my father deserved. So no, I don't really miss it." "Me neither," Amara said. "I thought I wanted to be a prosecutor. Turns out what I really wanted was to fight for justice. Just took a different path than I expected." Her phone buzzed. A text from Agent Torres. "Got a case you might be interested in. Federal judge taking bribes." "Interested." Amara showed it to Lorenzo. He smiled that dangerous smile she'd come to know well. "What do you think?" he asked. Ready to take down another corrupt official? With you as my partner? Amara stood, grabbing her jacket. Always. They left the office together. Two people who'd survived the night when the room froze, who'd learned that justice sometimes requires breaking the rules to fix the system, who'd found in each other not just allies but something deeper. The war on corruption wasn't over. It would never be over. But Amara Bennett and Lorenzo Romano were ready for the fight. Together. I hope you enjoyed this story. Please share what was your favorite part of the story and where in the world you are watching from. Have a wonderful day.